for all of your Bay Area sports news and updates. Make sure to tune in to the Deits and Stevens All Out Sports Show. It's coming up next, only on the national sports radio station live from San Mateo, California.
Looking for a better way to get up out of bed instead of getting on the internet and checking a new hit. Me get up, first shot, come strut walking. A little bit of humble, a little bit of cautious. Somewhere between like Rocky and Cosby's for the game. Nope, we all can't copy yet. Bad moonwalking, and this here is our party. My posse's been on Broadway, and we did it all way. Chrome music, I shed my skin and put my bones into everything I record to it. And yeah, I'm on. Let that stage light.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Deits and Stevens All Out Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert Deers, alongside my partner, Steven News. And we can't wait to give you all Bay Area news. And me and Steve are going to be going to the NFL first. We got the Niners and Raiders. Let's go with the Niners here, Steven. And the 49ers this season, you know, just the recent news. You got A.J. Jenkins for Jonathan Baldwin. How do you like the trade?
I don't think it's a bad trade. I feel like A.J. Jenkins wasn't really providing at all. He was really struggling in his career, in his one-year career as a 49er, and it didn't seem like he was comfortable in San Francisco the entire way. Last year, he just couldn't. He didn't play good at all. Preseason, he was an underperformer, and that's why he landed a job on the bench during the entire season last year. And then his opportunity, in the preseason this year was definitely lost after the first game when he fumbled on a simple catch against the Broncos, and I feel like that was the end of the straw. That was the last straw for the Niners front office, and they decided that if he wants to be a better wide receiver, then go to Alex Smith, and you can hopefully get better there, because right now you're not doing anything for us. And for the on receiving end of things for the Niners, I feel like it's a good pickup, Jonathan Baldwin, or John Baldwin, whoever we're going to call him. He's a decent wide receiver. I feel like, he's going to be, obviously he's not going to be a number 2 or number 3 wide receiver. He's not going to be number 1 wide receiver, obviously. He's not going to be the type of guy like a Michael Crabtree, but he's definitely going to be number 3 and number 4 wide receiver that the Niners would like to have, with the definite struggle of wide receivers last year. Anything's up for grabs in the preseason right now for a spot on the depth chart. Pretty high up there in the depth chart. So, I feel like Jonathan Baldwin could actually do something rather than A.J. Jenkins wasting a roster spot, on the bench.
And A.J. Jenkins hasn't even made a catch all in the NFL season so far. And, I think this is good for both guys. They both get new starts in 2 different teams, and going with Baldwin, I can't wait to see what he could do with the 20 catches he's had in the NFL, and AJ Jenkins have none whatsoever. Giving the option for Colin Kaepernick, as you don't have Mario Manningham and you don't have Michael Crabtree right now. I can't wait to see what really happens with the 49ers this season, as you can see that Anquan Boldin is going to help out a lot as well with Vernon Davis. And, the Niners are struggling with the wide receiver position, and Baldwin will really help out this team. Steven, John Harbaugh said earlier this week that about Jenkins, he took the responsibility for not playing him a lot, not giving him a lot of opportunities, but he will play Baldwin. What do you think of what Jim Harbaugh said?
I feel like, it's kind of, I think that Jim Harbaugh didn't like the fact that as a rookie, Jenkins was kind of nonchalant about things, about everything that he was going into, the games, practices. It seemed like, Jenkins was performing, a lot better than what he's showing in games to the fans. But, Jenkins from the very start was a disappointment, and Jim Harbaugh has, nothing to apologize for, in my opinion. I feel like it's Jenkins' fault for not putting the true effort in the games and being so nonchalant about things because he's in the NFL. He needs to really perform out there and actually do something rather than, like I said, waste a spot on the roster. And I think with Jonathan Baldwin coming in, I think that he's dedicated. He's more mature than Jenkins. Jenkins is a 2-year player. Baldwin's obviously a veteran, and I think that that's going to be the difference in this trade. And I feel like the Niners are going to get the better end of this trade come the end of the 2013-2014 regular season.
And Jim Harbaugh, also said that I take responsibility for not getting these players ready to go for the NFL, but it's not his fault. The player has to put in the time and work and commitment to get better as the season progresses. And I know he didn't play a lot, but AJ Jenkins could have done a lot better with everything that has been going on. And with the wide receivers position, I think the number 3 spot right now could maybe go to Kyle Williams, maybe a number 2 or number 3, especially because of Mario Manningham and Michael Crabtree out. I mean, who can get those number 2 and 3 spots for the wide receivers right now in the Niners roster, Steven?
It's up in the air. Kyle Williams, he came off an injury as well from last season, so he can definitely be that guy that gets the number 3 spot come kickoff for week 1. For number 4 spot, I might have to see Chad Hall in there, the young wide receiver that could have gotten a touchdown catch against Kansas City from Colin Kaepernick, but Colin Kaepernick overthrew it. But Chad Hall, he's just working his way up the roster, and I think that since Crabtree and Manningham are out to start the year, I think that this is going to be his opportunity to show what he can do in a 4 wide set. Probably going to be an inside guy on the right. So, but Chad Hall can really do something when he's right next to one of the best times in the league in Vernon Davis.
And also Baldwin will be getting his first start in the Niners debut against the Vikings for preseason week 3, and I can't wait to see what he could do, as well as Kendall Hunter coming off a big injury last year. Do you think Kendall Hunter can maybe get that number 2 running back spot?
He probably will. He's just more of an experienced running back. LaMichael James is all speed, and that's probably the only disadvantage that Kendall Hunter has. LaMichael James has a bunch of speed, and if the Niners want to go with the option route that they have with Colin Kaepernick running it this year for this first full year, then I feel like Jim Harbaugh will give this decision to LaMichael James. If it's the case of experience and they're just running I form or a split back formation or even a shotgun, I feel like the job would go to Kendall Hunter because he knows what to do on cuts and what to do. It's not about speed on that type of situation, on that type of play. It's more of the experience and being able to cut through holes and being able to find the holes to break it open for a nice run.
And being out 8.5 months after sustaining his Achilles injury, I can't wait to see what he could do. Come back on the field. You got the Frank Gore, you got Kendall Hunter and LaMichael James right now. Kendall Hunter and LaMichael James fighting for those spots, but Anthony Dixon's still in that lineup there. Guy looking for the 3rd string. I know they held 4 running backs last year. Do you think the Niners will do that again?
Yeah, they have to do it because Anthony Dixon is an uncuttable guy for the 49ers. He's my favorite 49er, and he's just a bulldog. But he's going to be used as a special team specialist, and it sounds kind of weird, but he's going to be the specialist on the special teams unit for kickoffs, kick returns, punts, punt returns, all that stuff. He's that size. He has the speed of a running back. He has the size of a fullback. He's been playing a little bit of fullback as well during training camp, and I feel like he can be used all over the place. And this year I can see him as fullback because that'll be key, especially in the option where you'll need a good lead block for any running back. If it's LaMichael James, if it's Frank Gore, if it's Kendall Hunter, if he's finally healthy, then you need a lead blocker. And I think that Anthony Dixon fits that role at a fullback position perfectly. And the Niners are not going to cut him. I'm pretty sure that's not. I'm pretty sure that's the case. if he does get cut, then it's going to be a terrible decision for the 49ers. He's such a valuable guy. He's not. That didn't really sound right, but in my opinion, he's a valuable guy for the specialists and special teams and a possible fullback in the future.
And going on some other 49er news. The Niners are interested in Seka, a new QB, and the Niners already with some QB competition here. What do you think of the Niners showing interest in another QB?
Seneca Wallace, who was just cut by the Saints after their game against the Raiders. He's down the free agent market, and being backup in Seattle for a few years ago, he does have the experience. He is a veteran quarterback. He's started some games before when Matt Hasselbeck was hurt in Seattle, but if the Niners bring in Seneca Wallace and actually sign him, and I think that's going to be a big problem because at the end of the day, I'm thinking one or two quarterbacks will have to be cut, and I think one of them is going to be Cole McCoy. He hasn't really shown a lot, and then BJ Daniel, who has first taste of a quarterback in an NFL game, and just a few days ago against the Chiefs. He really showed himself. Last week, he really showed himself making a key touchdown pass in the third quarter, and that's what the Niners want to see. They want to see production and not decent effort. And Cole McCoy is giving the 49ers decent effort, and BJ Daniel just showed us extraordinary effort and execution and production. I don't see why BJ Daniel cannot be a possible third-string quarterback and take out Cole McCoy from his team.
I can't wait to see what this Niner team can do, as, I think it would be Colin Kaepernick, your number one, of course. Number two, that's a little tough. I think Scott Tolzien, could get the number 2 spot right now. I think number 3 can be B.J. Daniel at this point. B.J. Daniel, as you said, has really proved himself, and I liked watching him in the, in the preseason game. And I think, the QB competition's been sort of brutal. But, if you're going to add Wallace to this QB competition, I think it's not even worth it because there's only going to be three QBs at the end of the day. And 2 of them are going to be cut. So, going on to the Niners so far, how have you seen them play over this preseason so far?
I've seen the good and the bad. For the quarterbacks wise, Colin Kaepernick has barely even played, so obviously the Niners are going to save him, rely on him when the regular season starts. For the quarterback issue for me, it's who wants it more than other guys. Scott Tolzien, like you said, you think of him as the number 2, the second string quarterback or the backup, and I just can't see that happening. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, Cole McCoy might be the backup, even though he hasn't showed us a lot. It's just because, in my opinion, I don't think anybody on the coaching staff will want Scott Tolzien, who hasn't started a single game, a single regular season game, as well as a single preseason game, and expect him to produce like Colin Kaepernick or like Alex Smith. Cole McCoy, he started multiple games in his career. He's had a fallout in the last couple of years, and he's been mixed around with some teams, and now he's landed in San Francisco. So I can see Cole McCoy as the possible backup because of experience and, the confidence in, hey, we know that this guy's been in this situation before, and, we feel more confident than a rookie or, a second year or third year player who hasn't been on a single snap or a single play in an NFL regular season game. And then for B.J. Daniel's sake, he might be a third string. It might be B.J. Daniel versus Scott Tolzien for the number 3 spot. And we might see Scott Tolzien leave because he's not producing a lot as well. But for me, it's going to be Kaepernick, McCoy, and then it's going to be Daniels or Tolzien for that number 3 spot because the Niners are not going to carry 4 quarterbacks if they're going to be carrying 4 running backs as well.
I mean, going to your point about, going to Colt McCoy being the backup just because he's been in that situation, the Niners could, pick him because I think Colt McCoy will stay as, one of those two other roster spots in the backups for Colin Kaepernick. Tolzien and BJ Daniel are really going to be fighting, but Tolzien I don't think will, be a part of this 49ers roster. I most likely think BJ Daniel will. This guy's really proving himself in this preseason. Also a guy that I've really liked watching, Frank Gore. This guy shows not his age. He keeps on showing how much younger he could be. And also, I'm looking at Phil Dawson. He was 3 for 3 last game. He's been perfect from the field goals. This team has done pretty well. The defense has really stepped up. Reed, the rookie that the Niners just picked up, has really shown some tackles. And I can't wait to see what this Niners defense can do this year. I know they don't have Deshaun Goldson, Isaac Saboga, and some other guys, but what do you think of this Niners defense, especially the secondary? Do you think the secondary can perform well this season?
I feel like Eric Reed, could possibly be the starter come week 1. He's shown a lot. He's impressed all the coaches. It's just a matter if he really is ready to become a starting, safety or a cornerback or a defensive back for an NFL team, and for a great NFL team such as the 49ers of the last 3 years. But I feel like Eric Reed is ready, and I think that the secondary, even though it lost to Deshaun Goldson, but it then added Nnamdi Asomugha, who was kind of big for no money and for no money guaranteed. That was big because we don't know what we were going to expect with him. But at the end of the day, Eric Reed is going to be starting, I think, along Nnamdi Asomugha, because Eric Reed, I think he's NFL ready, and I already know about Asomugha. He's a Pro Bowler for all I can say. So, he's been doing pretty good.
I like the secondary as well, and we're going to move on here to the Oakland Raiders. And so far, a team that still has, there's not going to look good in the AFC West. They might have another losing record, a lot of people have been saying. And Terrell Pryor will wear the number 2 jersey recently worn by a QB that has really brought down the Raiders organization, Jamarcus Russell and Aaron Brooks. What do you think of Terrell Pryor wearing number 2? Is this a big deal to you?
This isn't a big deal. Like, some people make too much of a big deal about jersey numbers, and it's the number that you want the most. It doesn't matter if it has poor history recently for the Raiders, like Aaron Brooks or Jamarcus Russell. Who cares? It's not going to affect how you play. If that's the case, then it's just a coincidence. It's not, this was going to really happen. It's Illuminati and all that stuff. But it's Terrell Pryor wants number 2. He wore that at Ohio State, and I feel like that's his lucky number. And obviously he's not going to be starting. Matt Flynn is really showing a lot for the Raiders, but Terrell Pryor is going to be probably going to be a specialist out there. Probably going to be a running back a little bit, maybe probably doing some option plays if the Raiders do so. But I can only see him as the backup as of right now because Matt Flynn, a very impressive game against the Saints in the second game of the preseason, and I think Matt Flynn is ready to go. Finally getting that start that he wanted to get last year with Seattle, but was beaten by eventual winner of the starting job, Russell Wilson.
And Matt Flynn looks good this year. I think this guy will really be a good starter. Terrell Pryor will get the number 2 spot, no doubt. How about McGloin probably getting that number 3 spot? I think this guy has done pretty well, especially against Wilson, but Wilson hasn't really done well this season. And McGloin was a free agent, undrafted. What do you think of that QB competition right now for the 3rd spot?
Now McGloin is going to win the number 3 spot. He's just going to have to improve. He's going to probably have to learn a lot from Matt Flynn, from Terrell Pryor. Even though McGloin and Pryor don't have a lot of, don't have a big difference in age, I feel like Pryor's experience, in the NFL system will help out McGloin a lot. It's gonna be a 2-year-long project for the Raiders to make McGloin, a possible quarterback for an NFL squad as a backup or possibly even a starting quarterback. But it's going to take a little while for McGloin to get there. But for the time being, he's doing all right. He threw a pick against New Orleans. That's obviously not a good thing. But he only had 7 passes on the day. So unfortunately, he's not going to get as many opportunities now because as the preseason is starting to unwind, the starters are going to try to get more reps. Matt Flynn had 16 passes. McGloin and Pryor combined had 12. So obviously, it's starters are the priority as the regular season is about to start soon, and McGloin's chances of possibly taking over number two string, which is probably not going to happen, is fading away very fast.
I agree with you, and Matt Flynn needs the more reps because this team is really going to have to work hard this year. Especially, they got to prove that they could be better maybe than the Kansas City Chiefs. But you look at Alex Smith, now they got A.J. Jenkins, they got Charles, and they got a lot of other guys. They got a lot of Pro Bowlers on that team as well. So when you look at it, I think the Raiders are probably going to be on that last AFC West spot, but they're going to be improving every day. But Charles Woodson, let's go to this guy, surprises the coaching staff every day. And, do you think Charles Woodson is probably going to be a really good captain for this Raiders team because of the experience he has had?
I feel like he's going to bring a lot of veteran leadership. He's been on a very long road since the last time he was with the Raiders. But, he's going to, like I said, he's going to bring a lot of veteran leadership. I think that he's going to, prove to the small, NFL public that comes out of Oakland that he's still ready for the NFL. He's still able to play in the NFL. He doesn't matter how old he is. He's still able to make the plays that he was making in the prime of his career. In the late years of the Raiders and the early years of the Packers. He's trying to make a point that he's not going to be leaving here. Very fast. He wants to stay here for a few more years, and I feel like the Raiders, took a chance with him, and I feel like the Raiders at the end of the day are going to be very happy because I feel like Woodson, could provide a lot to a defense that has struggled in the last couple of years with the loss of a couple of big time guys like Richard Seymour and like Nami Asamoah.
And he's 36 years old, but this guy could still play. I really like how he's been doing, and this is what the Raiders defensive coordinator had to say. He's an amazing athlete. That's why he's a big piece of getting this defense to where we want it to go. And I like how Jason Tarver has been saying that this guy has really helped out this defense, and getting Charles Woodson was probably one of the biggest pickups the Raiders have gotten over this offseason. And okay, let's go to their regular season. If you had to say how the Raiders are going to do this year, what record would you give them?
I got to start out by saying that they're going to have a very, very tough time playing against the AFC West. I just can't see them sweeping a team in their division this season, winning the 2 games. And, they're playing the Colts to start the year, and that's not a great way to start in Indy. Then they're playing the Steelers, and they're playing the Eagles, who everybody's saying is going to be a playoff team every year, which they're not. They're playing the Texans. They're playing the Cowboys. They're playing a lot of good teams. They're playing the Redskins at home. That's going to be a very nice game to go to. Week 4 on Sunday, September 29th, against the Skins, against RG3. That's going to be looking really nice. But, they're going to have a tough time playing against Kansas City and Denver, those teams. Well, Denver's, last couple of years, this year, and last year been the top team in the AFC West because of Peyton Manning, and then they got better offensively because of Wes Welker. That might be an issue possibly on the offense, but in my opinion, that's not going to be the case. Kansas City Chiefs, they got Alex Smith, and I think that he's the quarterback that is going to lead this team possibly to a wild card spot. Chargers, they're the Chargers. They're not good at all. They're not going to do anything. They'll probably win at the most 7 games, at the least 4 games. For the Raiders, and with the schedule that I'm looking at right now, I'm going to see them going 3-13.
3-13. That sounds right. Probably some teams they would beat are the Chargers, maybe some guys in their own division. That's really about it. But, I don't see them being the Chiefs this year whatsoever. They still got Dwayne Bowe and Alex Smith and Jamal Charles there, and that offense is really going to, stop, that Raiders defense unless Charles Woodson and the defense can really do something this year, which I'm kind of looking forward to. I think the Raiders defense could maybe try to do something this year. But, I'm just looking at them as a team. This is another improving year, which, the Raiders don't want to think of in a way, but they have to look at, the truth here. This is going to be an improvement season for them. And, their next game is against the Bears. How do they match up against that in the preseason?
It doesn't really matter, in my opinion. It's just another preseason game. But if you want me to go into, detail, the Bears are going to win. The defensive starters are going to be playing a lot, and they're going to shut down Matt Flynn and Ron DMC and Rashad Jennings and the whole offense, it seems like. Then defensively, they might be able to stop the Bears. The Bears, they're always up and down. They're very inconsistent on the offense end, mainly because of their quarterback, Jay Cutler. They have, They have 2 dangerous threats as wide receivers on the Bears, Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey. So I think that the Bears will edge it out here because their offense is just a little bit better than the Raiders if you match them up offense to defense, defense to offense.
The Bears pretty much match up against both of those ways. And, we're going to take a break here. But when we come back, we're going to be actually talking some baseball. You got the Athletics and the Giants, one team that is in a slump and one team that is behind the Texas Rangers right now. And we'll be back right after this commercial break.
Your presentation of the Deits and Stevens All Out Sports Talk will continue right after this. But during the commercial break, head over to the Facebook page and like it for daily updates in Bay Area sports. Your show will be right back in 30 seconds.
Pull up. Frank. Headshot. Frank. Sit down. Frank. Stand up. Frank. Pass out. Frank. Wake up. Frank. Fade it. Frank. Fade it.
Nah, I done grew around some people living their life in bottles. Granddaddy had the golden flask, backstroke every day in Chicago. Some people like the way it feels. Some people want to kill their sorrow. Some people want to fit in with the popular. That was my problem. I was in a dark room, loud tunes, looking to make a vow soon that I'ma get fucked up, filling up my cup. I see the crowd mood changing by the minute, and the record on repeat. Took a sip, then another sip. Then somebody said to me, nigga, why you babysitting? Only 2 or 3 shots. I'ma show you how to turn it up a notch. First you get a swimming pool full of liquor, then you dive in it. Pool full of liquor, then you dive in it.
Hello and welcome back to Deits and Stevens All Out Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert Dieters. Alongside me, Steven Hughes, my partner in crime. And, we're going to go to our next topic here. And baseball is the topic. Oakland and San Francisco, 2 teams that have, you see the Giants haven't been themselves lately, but the A's always doing well. And, let's go to the Oakland A's today. as the Giants lose to the Red Sox 12-1 as Barry Zito surrenders 6 earned over 3 2/3 innings. Joaquin Arias goes 2 for 3 with a home run. How have the Giants really done overall this season, though, Steven?
It's a disappointment for the Giants. People were expecting a lot because the Giants brought back most of their World Series winning team. They lost probably at the most 2 or 3 guys, and that's pretty much it. I'm thinking, but we brought back mostly the entire team. Pablo Sandoval, Ron Vogelson, Sergio Romo, Barry Zito, Brandon Bell, Angel Pagan, Buster Posey. Those are all guys that were on the team. I don't know. It's just been a really bad year for the Giants. It's just like 2011. We're thinking like, oh, we might go to the playoffs again. Maybe we're going to be consistent. Definitely, that's not the case because Pagan he's been injured for a very long time. Injury bug has hit him this year. Vogelson was hurt for most of the year. Finally, he's come back. Zito is struggling a lot. Zelinsky is struggling a lot. Bell has finally found his form. And, everything is going bad for the Giants. If they can't pitch, they can't hit. If they can pitch, they can't hit. If they can hit, they can't pitch. And it's just been that flip and flop all year. Plus, the injuries have been bad as well. Sandoval has been injured a lot. He's a guy that is inconsistent, being healthy. He underwent another MRI because he has a stiff back. He has injured a lot, way too much, and then it's kind of a shame that Sandoval is that type of guy that just gets injured a lot, and we have to put in backups a lot because that just ruins the lineup. Because you want the lineup to have consistency and with that build chemistry and with that win a lot of games, and that's the case with the Dodgers. That's what they're doing right now. For the Giants, that's the opposite, and you see them just looking up in last place.
The Giants have been more of a disappointment this year, but looking to the off season for this Giants team, as they have a lot of questions to really answer at this point. I can't wait to see what the Giants can really do next year. But their win last night was really, really interesting. I really want to bring that up. They had the bases loaded, 2 outs, and they had a guy first and second, but Hector Sanchez got hit last night, like near the, I would say, kind of hand, near like the wrist last night. I hope that doesn't affect it, but just the walk was really interesting to me. Steven, how interesting was that win last night for the Giants, winning 3-2 in a walk-off walk?
The Giants are very inconsistent. A win is a win, but that's a win that you really won't want out of your team. The last pitch of the game, 3-0, it definitely hit the outside corner. I felt bad for the Red Sox pitcher on the mound, Villarreal. That's a strike. 99 times out of 100, that's a strike. But that one time just comes up, at the most random time, and it could be at the most important time of the game, and that was the case, and that pretty much ended the game. But the Red Sox showed that, today with their 12-1 victory of the Giants, that, they're the better team, and then they shouldn't have lost. They should have never lost on, Tuesday night, and they showed it Wednesday afternoon. They put up a 12 spot, and the Giants put up only a 1. So obviously, that speaks a lot about, how the Red Sox, what their mentality has been the entire year, and that if they lost a game that they should have won, let's go back out there and win 5 games in a row. That's the reason why they're in first place in the AL East. That's why they're playing so much better than last year.
And the Giants, especially, they're just haven't really hit the ball. They've had way too many injuries, and last night was just luck, pure luck. I watched that game play by play, and watching that last pitch that probably should have been called a strike, but the probably just wanted to get rid of that game, get it called and done over with. But when you look at the end of the day, a win's a win. And the Giants so far, the guys that have really impressed me on the offensive side so far is Buster Posey, Hunter Pence, Marco Scudero. And those are the three main guys. Paulo Sandoval hasn't really jumped my eye this year. Oh, Brandon Belt has been a surprise so far ever since he changed his batting stance and his grip on it. The grip on the bat, has been loosening it, and he's just been bombing home runs. And I really liked how he's been hitting the ball more, getting more involved, and this guy has really shown that he wants to play with this team more and more. And now going their pitching staff, their pitching has just been horrific. Matt Cain hasn't been consistent. Tim Lincecum has had a little bit of bounce back, and he's going to be a free agent this year, so he's trying to have a better second half. And he's really shown that he could still be a part of this team. Zito, of course, his contract will end, and I hope the Giants just don't sign him whatsoever. He needs to be gone. Baumgartner has been the best starter for the Giants on this squad, and I've been impressed how he's been doing this year. And Ryan Vogelsong, a man that had a good start last night against Boston, and that was probably his best start of the year. I know it's his second start coming off the injury. And also one guy that I really have to give props to, Sergio Romo, a guy that's been a good closer this year, is really taking over that Brian Wilson spot for the 2 years. And the bullpen has done alright this year. The Giants bullpen has sometimes really disappointed me, but has also really impressed me as well as keeping some wins for the Giants. Because as you said, when they could pitch, sometimes they can't hit. But the Giants can get enough runs where that bullpen can really just go in and stop it. But, what expectations are you going to be looking for the Giants next year?
They'll need to have more consistency. That's like the fifth time I've said that. They just seem to be more consistent. They're bad. Like I said, if they can't pitch, they can hit. If they can't hit, they can pitch. And it's a shame that that's the case. That was the case in 2011. Tim Lincecum, he was doing okay. He was starting to get a little better, but at the same time, he's getting no support from his offense. And it's difficult as a pitcher, and I'm a pitcher as well for baseball. If you don't get offensive support, it's a terrible day. And I've had that probably once, a month. And the Giants pitchers like Baumgartner and Lincecum and Godin, unfortunately, he's on the DL now. Zito, Vogelsong, they have to feel it, once every other start or for multiple starts in a row. And that's the problem for the Giants, because once their pitchers don't once the pitchers get upset, they're going to think too much, and then the mentality part of the game is out the window. And then now you see Vogelsong and Lincecum giving up, 5-6 runs after 4 innings, and that's what the Giants don't want, especially with a struggling offense that is on and off all the time. And so, to answer your question, Robert, I just want to see more consistency on the bat, and maybe improved pitching rotation. I feel like free agents that are headlining the off season this year. On the mound, it's going to be Matt Garza, Hiroki Kuroda, Josh Johnson. He could be picked up for a low amount of money because he's been struggling late. Maybe the Giants can pick him up and possibly replace Barry Zito, who's definitely not going to get re-signed. Maybe even Tim Lincecum if he doesn't get re-signed. So I think that the Giants might be shopping for a couple starting pitchers, or maybe just one if they keep Chad Godin in the rotations, maybe the number 4 starter. Giants might be shopping for 1 or 2 pitchers this year in free agency. How do you think things are going to go, Robert?
Next year, I'm hoping for at least 2 better pitchers. Both of these guys need to be inconsistent. Josh Johnson would be a good pickup. Matt Garza wouldn't be bad either, but it just depends how much money we can get those two guys. Also, I think the Giants really just need that one guy, a really big bat for this team. A guy that can really, with runners in scoring position, which the Giants have really struggled with this year, with runners in scoring position, they just can't really drive in the runs. And I really want one of those guys that can really just go out there and get it done. And I'm hoping the Giants could really get some big money out of, just getting one of those big guys, one of those big bats the Giants just really, really need at this point. And right now, the Giants, it's going to come down to September 1st soon. You have Angel Pagan coming, maybe calling back up soon. He had his rehab start in Arizona. He had a triple and a single, and he felt, and he was fine. He ran perfectly well, and his expectation is come back September 1st. Is Pagan really going to help the Giants out for their last month?
No. Mainly because it's too late in the year. They're in last place. They have so much ground to make up so late in the year that it doesn't really make any sense why to risk having Pagan get re-injured, because that's been the case already. We've already seen that happen, and I don't think the Giants would want that at all. So if I was the Giants, I would take the rehab process, for Pagan another level, down, slow it a lot, because the necessity for Pagan for the Giants right now, it's honestly, it's worthless. Like, if he comes back to the lineup and the Giants win a few games in a row, that's honestly not going to do anything. The Dodgers are like 42-10 or 43-9 in their last 53 games. It's obviously not going to be able to be, caught up to, with only a month left in the year, and then plus wildcard hopes are gone because Arizona will be the only one that'll be possibly, in contention for the wildcard spot out of the NL West. You can't see the Rockies. Their offense is awful. They're awful. They're inconsistent. Their only two players is, good players is Troy Tulowitzki and Carlos Gonzalez. And then for the Padres, well, they're the Padres. They usually end in the bottom half of the NL West in the last few years.
Well, the good news for the Giants is at least, they're a half a game up against the Padres. That's a good thing, I guess. The Giants aren't last placed anymore. Do you agree with me on that?
Doesn't matter. I don't care if they're in fourth place or in fifth place. It's a really disappointing year.
I mean, it's disappointing, but I would rather not be last in the NL West. I'd rather at least not be that pit of the NL West, even though we still are. The Giants are still 17 games back.
Well, I don't think it's a goal. If you're heading to the All-Star break, you're in fourth place. Like, all right, guys, let's try to get third place this year. No, the entire goal of the year is to get first place or at least make it to the playoffs. For the Giants' sake, they should just probably stay in last place, mainly because, what's there to lose? We're already going to be in the bottom half of the NL West. The Padres are going to be the only team that are below us, which isn't really, a big stat or a big accomplishment. The Padres suck. That's the problem. It's just that it won't really matter to me because I don't look at the standings itself. I look on the expectations that the Giants really had for themselves, and I expected for a playoff spot. I expected for the possibility to go to the NLCS, and maybe expect a World Series berth once again. But, I'm seeing a rhythm here. 2010, World Series. 2011, crappy year. 2012, World Series. 2013, terrible year. Better, worse than crappy. It's just awful. But I guess it's every other year. So next year, Giants win the World Series. Let's go.
You heard that prediction out of Steven Hughes on Deits and Steven's All Out Sports Show here. And let's go to another topic in the San Francisco Giants. Heath Hembree, will he be called up when the rosters expand on September 1st? His stats so far since July 1st have been a 1.50 ERA in 19 appearances, and his 30 saves are a Grizzlies franchise record down in AAA. And, don't look at his June stats, because their June stats are pretty bad, going to a 7.84 ERA. Do you think he has a good chance of being called up?
I think he will have to if the Giants want to keep him, because the Giants will have to add him to the 40-man roster after the season anyway to protect him from the Rule 5 draft. And the Rule 5 draft is that, if you don't get called up and you're promised to on your contract, then you can put in effect the Rule 5 and you can put yourself in a special Rule 5 draft. And I don't think the Giants want to leave him, let him go, because, he's proved a lot. He's definitely going to get called up. 30 saves, like you said, Grizzlies franchise record, that's pretty impressive. He's had his scoreless streak of, games with, absolutely no runs is 9 games, 1.50 ERA, that's pretty impressive. He had a very hard time in June, but, somehow he found a way to get past that 7.84 ERA in June and become, a dazzling star out of the bullpen for AAA. Mike Hickam, who started a couple games this year already for the Giants, who just actually rejoined the Giants recently, actually praised Hembree's, stuff, and, Hembree's fastball is crackling and his slider has been a wipeout pitch since Hembree has 60 strikeouts and 15 walks in 51 2/3 innings. It's pretty impressive. But at the end of the day, Heath Hembree, he's got to be called up. He can be, put it into the 7-man spot and, be that situational pitcher. It's going to be kind of like a trial for him even before spring training of next year, because obviously he'll try to get a spot next year on the Major League roster. It's just that if he can impress, the coaching staff for the Giants and Bruce Bochy, and showing what he's been doing in Fresno since July 1st in AT&T Park or in the major leagues.
And I'd be really impressed to see this guy come out. I mean, the bullpen does need some work, not a lot of work, but, I think he wouldn't be a bad addition to the Giants bullpen with Heath Hembree coming up anyway for that expansion of the rosters. I would really like to just see how he would do in a real game situation. And let's go to one more topic here for the Giants. And Steven, I know we talked about this before the show, and you don't agree with this whatsoever. Buster Posey going to third base. It could happen during the offseason, and the Giants really want to train him for the spot. What do you think?
I have to follow up with what you thought about my opinion. I just don't like it. There's a report in CSN Bay Area that, compared Buster Posey going to third base like Johnny Bench, the great Hall of Fame catcher who ended his career as a third baseman. I just can't see that happening. And Bruce Bochy, all right, Bruce Bochy thought of it a couple of times or more than once, and he's starting to do it more often. But Buster's a first baseman. He has no range. He's not Johnny Bench. Johnny Bench was much more. I can't see much more. A little bit more athletic than Buster Posey. Buster Posey, I feel like he's a perfect fit at first base. I feel like Buster Posey is going to rely more on first base as the years go on, especially after the injury that he suffered in 2011. That probably took off 3 or 4 years of catching out of him. But Paulo Sandoval right now is the Giants' third baseman, and Buster Posey isn't. He's a catcher and a first baseman, and for him, in my opinion, that's going to be his career. He's not going to be a third baseman. I can't see him. I just can't see Posey go to the hot corner and really see, possible success out of, moving there.
This is what I really want to say, and I'm going to give a quick rant about this. Giants already having a bad year. Why would we just move guys at this point? I mean, I understand that, we're just going to be, bottom of the pit anyway. Might as well just put people in new positions. Posey does not need to go to third base whatsoever. Brandon Belt's having a good year so far, especially at first base, and that's why they've been switching out lately. You see Pablo Sandoval, he's struggling. He's got a little MRI so far. That's been the latest updates on his injuries. And what the Giants need to do is keep Buster Posey where he's at this point. Keep him at catcher and first base. That's where he knows how to play. That's where you want to keep him the most. He's your franchise player right now, and you don't want him to move anywhere else. Pablo Sandoval didn't have the greatest season so far. Next year, I think Pablo Sandoval can have a better year. I think that Buster Posey will still be a great catcher for this Giants squad. We don't need to move him to third. Brandon Belt, figuring out his batting stance so far and figuring out the grip on the bat has really helped. And I think next year, Brandon Belt could come out with more homers. I think Brandon Belt could probably even get 20 homers next year, for all we know. And Buster Posey, most likely, I think he can hit about 22. I mean, this hasn't been the year for the Giants in home runs, but I think their offense could really click next year. And, the Giants just really need also to find that one guy that could really, step it up when it's runners in scoring position. I know Posey did it Tuesday night against Boston where he got the sacrifice fly in the RBI that the Giants really, really needed in that situation to really tie the game up. But the Giants have so much situations in the offense. They got runners on second and third with one out and they can't do anything. And with even no outs and they still can't do anything. It's disappointing how the Giants really just can't really get a run, especially when there's no outs with the runners in scoring position. Now let's move on to the Oakland Athletics here, a team that I've really, really liked so far this year. And Steven, how impressed have you been with the A's?
Even though the A's are having a terrible second half of the year, the first half of the year was amazing for the A's. They really showed a lot. They showed that, who cares if the Rangers are even good without Josh Hamilton, even though it was just 1 year that the Oakland A's beat out the Rangers for the AL West spot with a one-game lead. Oakland A's are the Oakland A's now. They're a great team. But, this second half, they're struggling a lot. They lost their lead in the AL West. They're in second right now in the AL wildcard hunt. That means they're in the playoffs, but they're in the last possible seed to make it to the playoffs. And that's obviously a place that the A's do not want to be in. They do have a little bit of room. They have a 3-game lead over the Indians for that last and second wildcard spot out of the American League. That'll be a great game, A's and Braves in the AL wildcard game. I would love to see that, as that'll be very interesting. Two teams with very low media, very low media markets. Probably the two teams with the least amount of money in Major League Baseball, and they're playing the AL wildcard game to face on the Red Sox in the next round. But going back to the A's overall as a team, they've really come together, and they're playing up 71 wins. That's pretty good. They're great at home. They're 14 games above 500 at O.Co Coliseum. Bartolo Colon, he didn't get double jeopardy, and I think that's going to be the reason why the A's are going to stick it in the AL wildcard. If Bartolo Colon is to be suspended because of biogenesis, then the A's will have a big problem, because Bartolo Colon has been the leader on the pitching end for the A's, and I can't see anyone really, filling in the hole and the void that Bartolo Colon would leave if he would have gone suspended, but he didn't. And like I said, the A's will make the playoffs because he's on the team.
The Oakland A's have really, impressed me this year, especially the offense. You see Yoenis Cespedes, Brandon Moss. You also see Josh Donaldson. Those three guys have really got done, as well as Josh Reddick. The A's have really proven themselves this year. And I like how They came as one, a team that's young. I know their second half has not been the greatest, as you said, Steven. And right now, they've been 5-5 in their last 10 games so far this season. This team has, 71-55 right now, and as they said, they're in the, second spot of the AL wild card against Tampa Bay Rays. And Oakland's 2 games behind the Texas Rangers right now. And what the A's would really have to do is make their run in September. If they really do want to get that, lead in that AL West. I mean, it came down to the last game last year, and you saw what the A's did. The A's got that spot, and they won that AL West just by that one game. And like the Giants did in 2010 against the San Diego Padres, it came down to that last game. And I really want to see how Oakland can really get their momentum going in the second half. Now, Oakland A's, led by Bartolo Colon, Jared Parker, and all, the rest of the pitching staff have done pretty well this year. I like how the A's have really done it with the pitching this year, as well as the relievers. The relievers have done very well this year. Grant Balfour, one of the greatest closers in the game right now, has done really well for the A's and really has stepped up this year, as well as last year. Last year had a great year too, so the A's have really got what they need right now. They're 3 games ahead of Cleveland in that second spot of the AL wild card, and they're a couple of games behind Tampa Bay as well. But I think the A's could really, just get that either that AL wild card spot or that AL West. My prediction is going to say the A's get the AL West. That's my prediction on that. And let's go to some news actually in, the Oakland A's. This team unfortunately loses the series against the Mariners. How much does that affect the Oakland A's, Steven?
Not a lot. I feel like their issue right now is not, winning series. It's not a concern for them in losing a couple games, that now and then. But they've been winning a lot of games, so I'm not really concerned about that. The biggest concern that I have for the A's right now is their problem at the catching position. John Jaso has been on the DL for a long time because of concussion, and just yesterday they lost Derek Norris. He suffered a fracture in his big toe on his left foot. He suffered it on a play at the plate Tuesday night when they lost to Seattle, and Bob Melvin, the A's manager, says that Norris will probably need to stay on the DL, and that will leave only the A's with one healthy catcher in Stephen Vogt. And that's obviously not your plan that you came into heading into, the late part of August, the beginning of September, is have your third string catcher come in and start for a little while because your other 2 are injured. Hopefully John Jaso is going to be coming back soon. Derek Norris is going to be missing some time. So hopefully Stephen Vogt will be able to, carry the big load that he's going to be having to carry as the starting catcher for the A's, who are contending for a playoff spot. It doesn't matter if it's the AL West or the AL wildcard. His production in the game is going to be very key for the A's success in the lineup.
And the catcher position is one of the most crucial spots on an MLB roster, as Stephen Vogt hopefully does well for the A's, especially as Norris and John Jaso have been out. John Jaso, I hope he comes back soon. That guy has done a lot for the A's this year, has really contributed this year, as well as Derek Norris. And the A's have just really need that catcher, but the catcher really knows the pitcher, and John Jaso has really provided that offense, but currently he's been on the DL. Derek Norris has not done bad whatsoever. I like how Derek Norris has been playing, but when you lose 2 of your catchers, it's just not going to go well for the Oakland A's. And let's go another interesting topic here for Oakland, as Mike Scioscia says the A's never taught Grant Green how to bunt. Are you kidding me? How to bunt? Why does Mike Scioscia want to even bring the A's back in, to that whole deal? Do you think this is a joke?
It's kind of a joke. I don't know why they're making such a big deal about it. Bunting is bunting, and it's a fundamental game of baseball, and that should be obviously taught. Doesn't matter who it is they're teaching it to. Just, as a baseball player, I don't bunt because I'm 6'4" and almost 200 pounds. So I'm not going to be bunting, I don't think. I might not be, I don't know. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to get the call one day. But, Grant Green, like you said, he's a bunter. He has the speed. He has the contact. It's kind of like, what I can say, he's like a Brett Gardner. He does have a lot of power. He may have a little more power than, Brett Gardner, but Grant Green, who's, now on the Angels, he's really good a lot for Alberto Callaspo, if you think about it. If Grant Green doesn't know how to bunt, then So, fundamental-wise, you should know how to bunt. I kind of know how to bunt. So, that's probably an issue if you're Bob Melvin over there in Oakland. So, this is a joke that they're making a big deal about it, but, play baseball with some fundamentals. It doesn't have to be all fundamentals, especially for the A's sake, because they're playing with Moneyball. Oh!
I always got a joke over there, the money ball, and, Grant Green is, the guy that he's had 12 sacrifice bunts in the minors, including 3 this season. So, I guess Mike Scioscia really wants to go talk to the A's about it, but, I guess you could say bunting is a crucial situation, especially, there's a runner on second, maybe it's 3-2, and you're trying to tie out the game at this point. You want Grant Green to bunt over the guy to third, and, he can't get it down. And then, you got the one out there, but it depends who's up. But, the bunting is crucial. But, we're going to take another quick break here, but when we come back, we're going to be talking Warriors, Sharks, and Earthquakes, and, some interesting topics there. Me and Steven are going to be ending the show out with that, and we'll be back right after this commercial break.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Deits and Siemens All Sports Show. I'm here. I'm Stephen Hughes. I've been on the Skype end of things, provided by Skype. Me and Robert been on a video call. This Skype call is presented by Spreaker.com. Be heard, and go straight back to the show. We're talking about Warriors basketball. And some news arising, some funny news about Stephen Curry. He was on hand for a event in the Warriors basketball camp for kids in the area. And Robert, you have something to say about that?
And, this is really interesting out of Steph Curry. And, how he saved James Harden's music career. Remember last week when he did that. Well, Harden wasn't around to return the favor, so I have a funny video to show you guys. Here it is.
Stephen Curry on the remix. No, I look the best. James, I noticed that you think you can sing, but this is the remix with Stephen Curry. You should probably not quit your day job. So put down that mic and stick with basketball. Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry. You were with Harden, now you're with the best. My life is a party, and you were my guest. You think you're a singer, but your notes are flat. Please button up that shirt, no one wants to see that. Harden, I noticed you singing a song. Yeah, so I sang an even better song.
Steven, what did you think of that performance by Stephen Curry?
I hated that. That was just. I felt really bad that he just embarrassed himself like that. This is awful. His voice is awful. Like, if I was on American Idol, I would just tell him to just stop. I'll be very serious like Simon. Be like, bro, you just gotta regroup, work on your stuff for a couple more years, and then maybe you can come back. Because that was just poor. That was probably like Nicki Minaj effort right there. Like, she's terrible, and counted for Stephen Curry. But he should just stick to his day job as a basketball player. That drains threes a lot. So I actually got some news on hand involving a very famous park, Rucker Park in Harlem, New York. A special Warrior went on to play there. Actually, two of them. One was the most very notable one. David Lee and Kent Bazemore headed to Rucker Park. That has been the home of star players coming out of Harlem, like Dr. J, who I was just watching a YouTube video on, and he played at Rucker Park a lot, just all the time. It seemed like when he was getting serious about basketball. Rucker Park, the famed Harlem neighborhood basketball court in the New York City borough of Manhattan, and somebody took out the video and showed David Lee just smashing on guys out of Harlem along with Kent Bazemore, and there's a video on it on YouTube you guys can look at. David Lee, Rucker Park highlights in Harlem, and that obviously means that the hip of David Lee, it's healed. He's dunking on everybody now in Harlem, so obviously hopefully that shows that he is ready for hopefully the preseason, and he doesn't have to play every single minute, or he doesn't have to play the entire half. He can just play a quarter, and that's going to show a lot of people that he might be honestly ready and 100% to come back to the game. And how about the Warriors again to get a playoff spot?
I'm just watching the video right now. David Lee looking really strong right now, and I'm glad David Lee looks healthy right now, and I can't wait to see when he's going to be back in action for the Warriors once again. And, this has just been funny news out of Golden State Warriors. And this has been, the highlight of the Golden State Warriors, Rucker Park for David Lee and Kent Bazemore. And, getting the alley-oops for David Lee, getting the dunks. And, Steven, are you glad that David Lee is 100% healthy now and you can't wait for him to play? And we're going to have some technical difficulties here, but, David Lee looking really impressive this year. and going into next year, and I can't wait to see what he could do for the upcoming season. And, Warriors don't really have a lot to say, especially because, it's the off season still, and the Warriors already did their part in the off season, so we don't really have to talk much about it. Let's go to the San Jose Sharks, and they're going to have their 2013-2014 broadcast schedule, and they start out with Vancouver. Steven, what do you think of their schedule so far this year? Going their first 3 games is going to be all at home. It's going to be Vancouver, Phoenix, and the New York Rangers.
I discussed about a few shows ago. I talked about, the new conference alignment. There's only 3 divisions now in both conferences. For the Sharks, then, they didn't really change their, they're in their same division, the Pacific Division. For their first game against Vancouver, that's a pretty good game. Vancouver obviously has had history with the Sharks, dating back to I think it's the Western Conference semifinal or final a couple years back when Vancouver made it all the way to the Stanley Cup, where they eventually lost in Game 7. Everybody got mad, and it was ugly. But, Vancouver is still a great team. They got 3rd place last year. They won their division again. But the Sharks are probably going to be playing them a lot. And obviously they're playing them, first game of the year. Playing New York, playing Vancouver again. Speaking of them, they're playing Montreal. They just have a long road trip, in the late part of October. They're taking on Detroit, who's now in the Eastern Conference now, Boston, Montreal, Ottawa. Ottawa isn't that bad, honestly. They made it to the playoffs. They were a 7th seed. So, October could be the hardest month that the Sharks have, and it's their first month of the year. But anything could happen. The Sharks, even though they got the 6th seed, they still prove that they're still a playoff team. Doesn't matter if they're number 2 seed, number 7 seed, or number 6 seed like last year. They're still a good team. But I think I'm more really interested in this first game to see how they'll face against a playoff contending team like Vancouver and Phoenix as well. That's the next game. The first 3 games that they have are against playoff contending teams. I want to see how they fare in those first 3 games to start the year, and if they're really ready to go to the next level. Finally, I've been waiting for that for 10 years to actually have success in the playoffs and possibly make it to the Stanley Cup Finals.
And, the Sharks are going to be looking impressive this year. Their team, has changed over a couple of seasons, but I like how the team's going, and I hopefully, let's see a Stanley Cup soon. The Sharks haven't really done that whatsoever in their franchise, and they had some good years, and they make the playoffs pretty much every year. It's just they can never win. They can never go to the Stanley Cup. But with their schedule, as you said, Steven, their first month looks pretty tough, the October. But I look at their November and December. They don't look that bad. They do play Los Angeles. They play Los Angeles, Vancouver. And those are the really big teams I see in that one. December, January don't look bad. February, they don't really have much of a schedule. But you see March. March doesn't... I'm just looking at the schedule here, just briefly looking at some teams here. New York Rangers look pretty tough. March doesn't even look that bad. April, you had Edmonton, Los Angeles, Nashville, Anaheim, Colorado, and Phoenix. So, yes, Steven, I'll agree with you that October is the toughest month. Let's move on here, and let's go to our last topic here. The Earthquakes outlast Sporting KC to keep playoff hopes alive by winning 1-0 by Chris Wodolowski getting the goal in the second half. Steven, do you think the Earthquakes still have a chance of making the playoffs?
I think that they might. They're still in the mix. Top four make it. At this time for the Western Conferences, Real Salt Lake, Colorado, Portland, and the LA Galaxy. San Jose is in second to last, but they have 26 points, which is they don't have 26 points. They have 33 points. They're only 4 points behind LA, but the unfortunate thing about it is that they have 3 teams ahead of them, which is FC Dallas, which is Seattle, and which is Vancouver. Vancouver just recently beat San Jose 2-0, and San Jose could be in the state where, oh my God, I'm screwed. I need to win games on the away from home. San Jose is great at home. They're 8-4-1, and I feel like that's what you should be. You should be really good at home, and okay away. San Jose is 1-2-9 away from home, and obviously that's not going to cut it at all, especially in the Western Conference where it's going to be very tight throughout the entire year, especially this time of the year where every win is going to be very serious from now on, because if you have a legit possibility of making the playoffs, you should really take full throttle on it. San Jose needs to win one game, and they jumped past FC Dallas. They jumped past Seattle, and they're tied for 5th place with Vancouver. So anything can happen with only one win for San Jose. 2 wins would put them over Los Angeles. So San Jose is still in the mix, but it's how San Jose takes the opportunity, and if they can do it or not, they can possibly do it. Wondolowski is back. That's Steven Lennart, hopefully he's going to be consistent throughout the entire year, especially through the final stretches of the year. But it's going to be consistency, and that's the name of the game for everybody, for any team. That's just the case for everything. For San Jose, they need to win 2 games. They only need to win 2 games. Hopefully you don't think about that. They should be thinking about winning or at least tying every single game. But they need to get the job done. They need to get it done, or they're not going to get anything done out of that. And that's going to be the bad part about it.
And as the home record looks pretty well for the Earthquakes, this team has struggled, but I think this team can maybe get into some more momentum as the season goes on and progresses. And that's going to end our show here, but Steven, you got any final words before we end it out?
Actually I want to point out that speaking of FC Dallas and Los Angeles, the next few games for San Jose are against those teams. And unfortunately for San Jose, they're on the road. So if they have one road win the entire year and they need these 2 wins here on the road, then they got to get it done. If they beat Dallas, that's going to be awesome. But their biggest test is going to be Saturday, August 31st, the NorCal-SoCal rivalry between Los Angeles. That's going to be the biggest game of the year for San Jose if they have any possibility of making it to the playoffs. And I want to thank everybody for listening. Like our page on Facebook, Deits and Steven's All Out Sports Show. And then, on this station, like us on Facebook, National Sports. Follow us on Twitter and on Spreaker.com right here. On Twitter, it's National Sports 1. And then for Instagram, it's @national_sports. So, with that in hand, I want to thank you again, guys, for listening to us, and tune in next week, and I'll give the final words back to my co-host, Robert Dieters.
Listen to our other shows as well, as we've been getting a lot of new guys doing new shows, as well as Rookie Roundup, Coast to Coast, and NFL Goal Line, and AM Sports Live. So listen to all those shows as well. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening, and me and Steven can't wait to be back for next week. And have a good afternoon and also a good night on the East Coast. So have a great day. Reporting from the National Sports Studios. From Deits and Stevens All Out Sports Show, I'm Robert Dieters, and thank you for listening.
Closed captioning has been brought to you by the various music distributors across the United States, along with the National Football League and NFL Film. This has been strictly an educational purpose only, and zero profit has been made through the distribution of this audio. Thank you for listening to the Deits and Stevens All Out Sports Show. Stay tuned for more presentations live from National Sports, including an all-new episode of the All Out Sports Show coming up next week. This has been another presentation of National Sports.